Antonelli. And now the Interreg program, Italy-Slovenia 1420, in what we have done, starting with Alyosha Soso, please.
Buongiorno a tutti, dobar dan. Cercheremo di andare veloci.
Good morning to all of you. I'll try and be brief. But let's say that a few data are absolutely necessary to understand what was done in that programming period. The program is about to end. There are still a few projects underway, but I think that it's important to sum them up. And I'd like to provide you with a few data that are nonetheless very important. As for the program itself, we must say that during the pandemic, well, there were many difficulties for all of us, for the individuals, for the projects, but for the whole of the program. The program, of course, tried to adjust to the pandemic. And at the same time, we tried to carry on all the necessary activities so that the projects could be implemented as best as possible. And we also had to support the various projects. There were 14 meetings of the monitoring committee. Most of them were held online. We also organized and developed many platforms, online platforms and software to be able to work online. We had to learn how to use Zoom and Teams. There were 15 meetings of the working groups, and another important thing is that within the monitoring committee, especially over the last couple of years, we have decided to be able to support the various projects because of the changes in communications. There were changes in the financial plans. And so decisions were necessary. Given the pandemic and given the lockdown, we had to adjust. But I have to recognize that we all did our best, and we all succeeded in carrying out our activities, even resorting to written procedures, and 7 calls were published. Some figures, previous speakers maybe have already mentioned them. The general fund of the program is the one indicated here. It is the ERDF, 77,929,000 euros for 7 calls for proposals for standard projects, and then for strategic projects right at the beginning, at the start of the program. And that was the first innovation that we introduced in the 2014-2020 programming period. We also had the ITI project, so the integrated territorial investments, which holds true also for the EGTC Gorizia. Altogether, 63 projects. 2 were ITI projects, and more than 360, says the speaker, 360 beneficiaries. There were some overlaps for certain projects. Some partners were involved in different projects, so they collaborated to different projects. As for the use of the funds at program level, we have this table here. Well, it might seem inconsistent because there were 77 million from the ERDF. And then in another table, you see 97. Why? Because while the program was being implemented, all the funds that we knew were not going to be used were also included here. So in the end, it was 77 million. At a certain point, we went also through a period of overbooking. As for the expenditure approved with the program, for 2021, the objectives were achieved based on the N+3 concept. There are a further 16 million that would have to be approved and paid in 2023. It might seem a lot, 16 million, but as you know, currently the financial reporting system is still ongoing. The project ended on the 31st of August, and we know that those 16 million, most of them will be financially reported over the next few months. As for the individual projects, well, for 4 calls have now ended. There is still some verifications to be carried out, and the whole of the money has already been granted and allocated. As for strategic projects, there were 9 of them. And here, the funds that were certified and approved are quite important. We're just waiting the financial reporting for the last few months, but we're very happy in terms of using the funds. And a last slide on standard projects of the last call number 7. Here we have all data in a single table. Even though it may seem as if the funds were not totally used, actually these funds then received at the end of last year supplementary amounts of financing. And with the final stages of the financial reporting, the percentages will increase. If we want to look at the individual projects and how the activities were carried out for each project and how expenditure was reimbursed, given that we were in COVID times, when it comes to the projects of the last call, well, there we had some problems in terms of communication, for instance, because certain activities could not be implemented. We were just in a lockdown period, and so certain events could not even be organized. And on the other side, in certain instances, projects were delayed and or postponed because there were problems in terms of investments. And this year, especially during the first 2 months of this year or last months of previous years, many projects faced difficulties because certain raw materials were not available. And then the war broke out in Ukraine, and the situation further complicated for certain projects. However, most of the projects ended on the 31st of August this year. And for co-finance projects, there are a few of them still underway. One will close over the next few days. But we are happy. We are happy with the program. With a few exceptions, I have to say that all went well. Let's move to the indicators. Indicators are very important for the program. Here we have the indicators that were developed for the projects. Data are not updated because we are again receiving the financial reporting for the project. But as you can see, for axis number 1, we have achieved the goals that we had set ourselves with the program. As for axis number 2, where the financial allocations were not very high, however, with perhaps the exception of the first indicator, we can say that we can be happy because for the second indicator, we have achieved twice as much the expected result. And then for axis 3, we achieved all goals that we set ourselves, and the same holds true for axis number 4, where good results were achieved from the viewpoint of indicators. We exceeded the values a little in certain instances. That was my presentation, a short summary of this programming period and of the results that we have achieved, that we achieved in the 2014-2020 results.